over animals in nature. That is in the Hebrew Bible. So that's Western influence. Today, we will explore how Manifest Destiny in America contributed to massive climate change and what is being done today to remedy that situation with keystone species like buffalo, wolves, beavers, salmon. Salmon are a keystone species. We're going to get into that. And otters. Gotta love some otters. Okay, so we're going to be lots of information, lots of cuteness, and then we're going to do a deep dive on why God having this like external authority over nature and that hierarchical relationship led to our demise. That we didn't see these animals as complementary to us. We saw them as something to control and change based on our will. And look what's happened. So please like and subscribe to my channel. I'm growing my channel as I share my free ebook to help everyone heal from their childhood trauma. And I would say this is definitely a trauma response. This kind of external control and external locus of control sets up the victim mindset. So that's why I dive into this, to help everyone see themselves so we can all become healthier, more mature adults that aren't yelling in the streets and like driving our car into ICE officers. You know, we have emotional control. We understand the rules, the laws, and if we want change, we understand how to do that legally through the current system. Okay, but we're going to start with the wolves video, which summarizes the keystone species situation so well. And it's based in Yellowstone. So in the 1920s, the wolves were killed and they brought them back in the 1990s. And then we saved $93 billion. I'm just let that sit for a second. Like, they stopped flooding, they stopped drought, wildfires, they stabilized lands, they stabilized the roads, and that's just the beginning. Native Americans knew you're in relationship with nature and animals. We're not controlling them. They're not controlling us. We're in relationship with. How can we all have healthy boundaries and thrive on this amazing planet Earth? Let's see what the wolves did, okay? I'll share my screen here.
What if I told you that 14 wolves changed the course of an entire ecosystem? In 1995, the U.S. government did something that seemed pretty simple. They took 14 Canadian wolves and released them into Yellowstone National Park. What followed wasn't just the restoration of a species, it was the transformation of an entire ecosystem, the revival of a dying landscape, and an economic miracle that would eventually save America $94 billion. But to understand how 14 wolves managed to do all this, we need to go back to when everything started going wrong. Here's an unobtrusive reminder to hit that like button if you're ready for an incredible story about how nature can heal itself in the most unexpected ways. Let's start in the early 1900s. Back then, wolves were seen as nothing but pests, dangerous predators that needed to be eliminated. The U.S. government actually had official wolf killers, people whose job was literally to just shoot, trap, or poison every wolf they could find. And they were really good at their jobs. By 1926, the last wolf pack in Yellowstone had been killed. People celebrated this as a victory. They had no idea what they'd just done. But here's where it gets really interesting. First, everything seemed fine. Sure, there were no wolves, but who needs wolves, right? Wrong. Over the next few decades, things started going terribly wrong, but so slowly that at first, nobody noticed. It was like watching a train wreck in slow motion. Without wolves, the elk population exploded. And I mean exploded. By the 1990s, there were about 19,000 elk in Yellowstone's northern range alone. These elk basically turned into living lawnmowers, eating every young tree and bush they could find. Aspen trees, willows, cottonwoods, nothing stood a chance. Saplings would sprout in the spring, and by winter, they'd all be gone. But wait, I hear you asking, couldn't they just hunt the elk to control the population? Well, they tried. But here's something fascinating. Wolves don't just kill elk, they change how elk behave. This is something scientists call the
That is the relationship. The wolves aren't better than the elk, and the elk aren't better than the wolves. But when the relationships are balanced and harmonious, then we thrive. Like, do you thrive in a marriage where the man is hitting the woman all day long, or where the woman's screaming and berating the man all day long? No. But the wolves draw healthy boundaries with the elk. The elk eat less trees. When you eat all the trees, the ground is unstable. The rivers get damaged. As we're going to see in a second, when the elk stopped eating the trees, the beavers came back. Well, the beavers build dams, and the beavers retain water and restore the water in the ground, the aquifer, that prevents drought. But beavers are inconvenient for cattle, But cattle's European and doesn't interact with the ground in the same way the bison do. Okay, so when we don't open our hearts and listen to our souls, and we make our decisions with our brain instead of our heart, and understanding that we're in relationship and not dominion over, not power down, then we save $94 billion.
ecology of fear, and it's way more important than anyone realized. When there are no wolves around, elk can just stand in one place, munching away until they've eaten everything. It's like teenagers raiding a refrigerator when their parents are away for the weekend.
No healthy boundaries. Wolves draw healthy boundaries with elk. And I don't know all the things that elk do, but they do a lot for sure. But that's what the wolves do. Draw healthy boundaries with people, with other animals.
But with wolves present, elk have to keep moving, stay vigilant, avoid certain areas. They can't just hang out by rivers and streams all day, eating all the young trees. By the early 1990s, Yellowstone was in serious trouble. The park's ecosystem was collapsing, but most visitors had no idea. They'd see the beautiful mountains, the geysers, the elk everywhere, and think everything was perfect. But scientists were watching a different story unfold. The decision to bring back wolves wasn't an easy one. Ranchers fought against it, worried about their livestock. Hunters weren't happy either. They thought wolves would decimate the elk population they relied on.
So we brought cattle over from Europe, but they're half as heavy as the bison. So they don't interact with the land, and the bison have had, hundreds of thousands, millions of years to develop this ecological structure. I mean, there's certain animals that have a high reproduction rate because so many other animals feed off them. And that's right relationship. Death isn't wrong. I mean, you can't have death without life. Life and death go together. They're a pair. Like men and women, they're a pair. Okay? So, this whole, God gave us dominion over us. Oh, let's bring over the cattle, throw them in the land, and we know what to do. Oh, well, in Europe, they killed the bison and the beavers and the salmon too. And they're restoring now as well with the same keystone species. Everyone's, having an enlightenment experience going, oh, maybe that wasn't the best idea. And if we ask questions, with carbon storage, so soil naturally stores carbon. Kelp stores carbon. But without the otters, the kelp forests are gone. So then there's no storage of carbon. So are we using too many fossil fuels? Or do we destroy Earth's ability to restore carbon in healthy ways because God gave us dominion over animals and nature? And then we didn't know what we're doing because we're using our heads and not our hearts and our souls. Let's think about that.
Some locals even spread rumors that the government was planning to release super wolves, specially bred killing machines that would terrorize the entire region. But here's something most people don't know. The wolves chosen for reintroduction were carefully selected. They picked wolves from Canada because these wolves were used to hunting the same prey they'd find in Yellowstone. They choose wolves from different packs to ensure genetic diversity. And get this, they even looked for wolves that had never had conflicts with humans or livestock. The actual reintroduction was like something out of a movie. In January 1995, 14 wolves were brought in, each one carefully sedated and transported in separate crates. The wolves were kept in acclimation pens for several weeks, allowing them to get used to their new home while still being protected. When they were finally released, nobody knew if they'd stay in the park or just run away. Not only did they stay, but they thrived. And this is where the story gets really interesting. Each wolf pack developed its own personality, its own hunting style, even its own family drama that researchers could follow like some wild animal soap opera.
Their souls having a wolf experience. Their souls having a buffalo experience. Their souls having a human experience. Their souls having a plant experience. We're here to experience the differences and learn how to remember that we're souls having a human experience and that we're all in this together. We're one big family of souls. We just haven't all acknowledged that because we're not there yet. Like, we're still arguing what a man and a woman is. So how much progress have we really made?
Take the Druid Peak Pack, for example. They became the most famous wolf pack in Yellowstone's history. Led by a wolf known as 21M, nicknamed the Gentleman, this pack grew to 37 members, the largest ever recorded in the park. Wolf 21 became legendary not just for his size and strength, but for his unusual behavior. He never killed defeated rivals, adopted orphaned pups, and stayed with the same mate for life. When his mate died, he stopped eating and died shortly after. Even scientists who tried to avoid anthropomorphizing animals admitted this was something special. But the wolves didn't just create interesting stories. They started changing everything around them. And I mean everything. Scientists call it a trophic cascade. But really, it was more like ecological dominoes, falling in ways nobody had predicted. First, the elk population started dropping, but not.
I know one population that could have predicted that: Native Americans, because they lived in relationship with the buffalo. It killed the buffalo to kill the Native Americans, and we'll, get into that in a second. Yeah, wow. Oh, shoot. I need to stop.